What the hell? We got a copy of the Ginyu Force? Yes, but actually I rather like them, and I'm gonna explain why, as well breaking down the origins of their names and giving you a little bit of insight into what their role will be. Probably in the next episode, we'll see. I think this was a really interesting episode, and I think a lot of the humor will probably have gone over a lot of the English-speaking Dragon Ball fandom's head. I haven't seen the subtitles, but I suspect that's probably the case. So I'm going to help you understand some of the stuff that happened in this episode. So let's get into my breakdown of Dragon Ball DAIMA episode 14. So last time we left off with Goku and the gang heading to Warp-sama, but of course we already knew that Warp-sama had been shut down by Degesu and King Gomah. Well, King Gomah had told Degesu to do that. And so when they get to Warp-sama, they see that, yeah, he's completely shut down. They can't get through. Hybis says there's no other way through because there shouldn't be. However, as we had learned, I think it was in episode 3, there was an old way to get in between the demon realms. And there were these tunnels that were covered by these shields. They call them shields in Japanese. And so Goku tries to go through them. He gets kind of, I guess, electrocuted. He loses consciousness, falls down. And then, well, we find out that Neva is actually the one that created those shields. He unlocks the shields. And yet again, we go like, who is this guy? This guy can do anything. He can summon the Dragon Balls on Earth, revive the Dragon Balls, create these shields, create the Tamagami. He can do anything he wants, it seems. So I'm starting to think, is this guy like actually Raimusu? Like, is this who he is? Is he some kind of god? Because, well, even Piccolo acknowledges this. He says, like, you really are like a legend. You're not a Namekian, you're a legend. He says something like that. So I don't know. And the theory that he could be the guy that double crosses Goku and everybody, and he's actually the big bad of the series is still very much alive. But I have no idea. I can't read this guy. Like, it seems like he's good. It seems like he's evil. We're going back and forth. So we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough. But anyway, it turns out that Neva's the one that created these shields because, well, he had, there were kind of evil people, annoying people, ruffians coming from the third demon realm and obnoxious, kind of dumb, stupid fools coming from the first demon realm. And I guess trying to get the Dragon Balls and all that. And so he created the shields, but then eventually Warp-sama was created so people could still go to the second demon realm. But even after Warp-sama was created, things calmed down. It wasn't like things got back to how they were before and all crazy. And so it seems like the shields largely served their purpose. But yeah, Neva opens it up and they go through. Anyway, we go over to the first demon realm with Gomah and Degesu. And of course, Gomah is all concerned about the Goku and everybody coming over to the first demon realm. And so one thing that they did here, and it seems like this was kind of a pointless thing, but it resulted in some good comedy. They called their most elite special forces team, and in Japanese, they're called the Kenpe Tokusentai. So the Kenpe is the military police. I believe in English, they're being called the Gendarmerie. That's originally a French word. I don't speak French. That was my horrible impression of how you might pronounce that in French, even though it was probably all wrong. So apologies to any French speakers out there. Apparently it's being called the Gendarmerie or something in English, but in Japanese, it's just the military police, like Kenpe. That's all it is. So I'm not sure where that translation came from. It's a creative translation. Totally valid, but kind of difficult to remember. So anyway, apparently there's this group of 5 elite warriors. They make up a special forces team that, yes, is a parody or homage, reference, nod to the Ginyu Force from the Namek saga, right? And fan favorite team. And now we get a new version of them. But of course, this wasn't the first homage to the general Tokusentai or Special Forces Super Sentai kind of genre, right? Of course, we got even the Great Saiyaman, right? He's essentially just a parody or homage of all these Super Sentai or Kamen Rider and that kind of stuff, right? And then we also have the Pride Troopers, right? From the Tournament of Power Universe 6, right? Yeah. So this is nothing new, although this was very clearly more of an homage specifically to the Ginyu Force, I think. But so let me break these guys down, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the comedy that we got here that I think may not translate all that well. Okay, the 5 guys, just like the Ginyu Force was themed after dairy, right? They had one unifying theme. These guys also have one unifying theme, and that is poisonous creatures, particularly like creepy insects that I could be described. Well, okay, so it's like insects, a snake, and a shell, like a sea creature, like a shell. Okay, so I'm gonna go through them one by one. So first we have Captain Kademu, and this comes from Mukade, which is a centipede, so poisonous insect. One extra little note here: this guy was played by Koyama Rikiya. I love this voice actor. This guy's a legend. There are a lot of quite well-known voice actors in Daima. And, Koyama-san is actually the voice of, a lot of different people, but one of my particular favorites is Takamura from Hajime no Ippo. And actually, his personality here is actually very reminiscent of Takamura. So for any Hajime no Ippo fans out there, hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. Anyway, let's keep going. Number 2 was Danima. So Danima, I believe this is the guy with the Gatling gun, right? I love how he starts shooting and it's just chaos in the hall. It felt like a little bit of a lunch reference too. You know how she used to just pull out the gun in her blonde hair form and just start shooting indiscriminately. But anyway, this guy, Danima, is, his name comes from Madani, which is a type of tick, a hard tick specifically. So yet another poisonous insect. Number 3 is Hiria, which comes from Hiari, which is fire ant in Japanese, another poisonous insect. Number 4, Mashimu, and this comes from Mamushi, which is a pit viper, so a kind of poisonous snake. Number 5 is Gaimoi, which comes from Imogai, which is a type of shell, like a sea creature, specifically the cone shell. So all of these are kind of like creepy creatures, which generally fits with the theme that we've seen in the demon realm of like creepy stuff and creepy animals and supernatural creatures. So it fits perfectly with what we've had established up until now. But these guys are a total joke, right? They're not strong at all. I mean, we know that nobody in the demon realm could defeat even Tamagami number 3, not even Dabura. So clearly these guys are not strong, but they are very funny. And so we get a couple interesting moments between them and Degesu and King Gomah. And so Kadem, right? Kadem, the captain, he's like, don't worry, we'll take care of this. It'll be so easy. You just go in the bathtub and play with your fart bubbles. So basically, like, take a bath, fart in the bath, and then with the bubbles that come out, go play with them. You're going to be playing with your fart bubbles. You're going to be happy. But then, of course, Degesu, they reinforce the fact that, no, you cannot take these guys lightly. And then he gets scared, so he pees himself a little bit. So anyway, yeah, these guys are going to get the crap beaten out of them for sure. So let's break down the convenience store scene, because I think this is actually going to be an important plot point for the next episode. So even though it seems just completely stupid and you may think it may be completely needless, I think it will actually be important to some extent, at least. It's not going to be like the big ending or anything like that. But basically, they want potato chips. That Kadem guy, I guess he wants a specific type of potato chips that he tried like just before. And so they're in the convenience store, which we already had mention of the convenience store by Ku, right? When he went to the chocolate to get chocolate twice already to the convenience store. So I love that finally we're getting the convenience store. And this is very Japanese humor in that it's very manzai-esque. And what I mean by that is manzai is this type of Japanese comedy where you have a straight man, so a serious guy, and like the dummy guy, the guy that says the stupid things. And so the dummy guy will say like something completely stupid, and then the straight man, the serious guy, will say, "How could you say that? That's completely wrong." And that back and forth is the joke, right? Or, well, it highlights the joke and it indicates for people to laugh. And it is funny if done well, like any kind of comedy. And I do enjoy it from time to time. There's a lot of that kind of humor here in Daima. And like, for example, when Ku first says, "I'm going to go to the convenience store," me and many Japanese people watching this, I've seen in reviews and whatnot in Japanese, they go like, there's a convenience store? And that's kind of like the back and forth manzai kind of thing. And so seeing them just shop for potato chips, that's kind of like that sort of moment where you go like, what? Like, this is what we're doing? And that's the joke, right? And I think that this might not translate so well into English, but hopefully you're appreciating this because I do think there's some pretty decent comedy going on here. Anyway, we get the potato chips, which are also parodies of like real world popular Japanese flavors. So we get gomi shio. That's the first one they mention, which is trash salt. And this is a parody of nori shio, which is one of the most popular potato chip flavors in Japan. It's a really good flavor. I highly recommend you give it a shot. It's like the dried seaweed nori mixed with salt, and it's really good. It's really good. It's really, really just, I highly recommend it. Don't be all hung up and like, oh, it's seaweed. No, just give it a shot if you ever have a chance. So that was a parody of that. And then we also have mold mayonnaise. There's a lot of mayonnaise like flavors in Japan for snacks and whatnot. So yet again, a very Japanese thing that I think may have gone over the head of many English-speaking Dragon Ball fans. But anyway, in the convenience store, the Tokusentai, the Special Forces, happen to come across Ku and Du, and they treat them like little kids. And then Kadem's like, I'm going to buy you some chocolate, which I love. So this is really painting the Special Forces as largely like a good bunch of guys. Yeah, they're like kind of stupid and inept, but they're kind of nice, right? Kadem is like a nice guy. And then Ku and Du are just nice too, right? Like Ku is just a nice older brother helping out his little brother. And Du's just a silly little like toddler that just wants chocolate. They're not evil, right? They're just nice. And then the joke is, of course, Kadem they don't have enough money to buy all the chocolate. So he's like, oh, little kids shouldn't eat that much chocolate. So I'm just going to buy you a little bit. And then at the end, when they walk out, Du is like, thank you. So all these characters are set up to be like really nice. They are not evil. And here's what I think the importance of this scene is. I think that now that we get, Goku and everybody entering the demon realm, and there's going to be this big face-off, the Special Forces is going to face off with somebody there in the Goku team, right? And they're going to get completely demolished. And this may be one of the triggers that causes Ku and Du to attack Goku in the team, right? Because they treated Ku and Du nicely. They bought Du chocolate. So you can imagine that Du might go, whoa, it's those guys, and I'm going to beat the crap out of those guys that are beating up the guys that helped us, right? And so even if Arinsu is telling them to go beat up those guys and they're unsure about it, that's going to be the trigger that pushes both of them to go after Goku and everybody. Now, what happens after that? Do we get a fusion, some kind of absorption? I don't know. That's what I think many of us are thinking, but who knows? We could get a curveball here. But going back to Goku and the team, we get another plane crash. Oh my goodness. This should be called Dragon Ball Plane Crash, not Dragon Ball Daima. But at the very least, I think this was a pretty cool sequence of everybody jumping out of the plane and kind of skydiving their way down. Very action movie, very exciting. But of course, this also sets up Glorio having one of the Dragon Balls, because right before he jumps out, he takes one of the Dragon Balls. Hybis says thank you. By the way, I forgot to mention that Hybis calls Glorio dark in this scene. He says, you're kind of a dark guy, but you're actually okay. And I think this is yet again another reference back to him being some kind of artificial life form, because I talked about in an earlier breakdown how Pansy kept describing him as kind of dark and gloomy. And the only other character in Dragon Ball Z, at least, I don't know, maybe Dragon Ball, but at least in Z, that gets described as Kurai, as dark, is Android 16. So this might be yet again another little hint that we're going to get some kind of big reveal with Glorio. And Hybis was also kind of worried that he was going to have to carry Bulma. So, of course, Hybis always having this comedic moment and saying like, oh, I can't handle the heat. By the way, they were jumping out at 60 degrees Celsius. The outside temperature was 60 degrees Celsius, which is like 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's still pretty damn hot, especially for a normal human. Like Saiyans, yeah, whatever, they can handle it. Demons, I guess they can handle it. But that's pretty hot for a human. And you heard Bulma complain about that, right? So anyway, they're jumping out and this whole epic thing. And there's a sun. There's a sun in the first demon realm. We find out about that, a little sun. So anyway, they jump out, epic kind of action movie scene, and the military police is like shooting at them, and we get a big setup, for the final showdown that's going to happen in the next episode, starting in the next episode. But we've got about 6 episodes left, so let's just say that we have 5 episodes more or less of fighting with like epilogues and breaks, maybe one kind of slow episode in between. Maybe we have 4 episodes of fighting and 2 kind of like for an epilogue and like a slow episode. We'll see, but we should be getting quite a bit more fighting coming up. By the way, here's a little theory that I came across in the Japanese fandom. Maybe Captain Ginyu was originally from the Demon Realm, because remember, we don't know what his original body looked like, and this whole body change thing, maybe it's magic. And so maybe he originally came from the Demon Realm and he was inspired by the Kenpe Tokusentai, these special forces, military police special forces guys. Or maybe he was a member of them, and that's why he ended up creating the Ginyu special forces, the Ginyu Tokusentai, in the human realm. The next episode is called Third Eye. So this seems to be indicating that, Gomah might finally get that third eye. He might get that power up. Perhaps it is that eye that Hybis has around his belt that he just found in the mountains. That seems to be the most likely outcome. And I guess Gomah will either notice it or get it or try to get it in the next episode. And that may result in a big power up. So there's a lot of moving pieces. And I think that Daima has a little bit of a potential problem here in that we don't have a clear evil big bad. Yeah, Gomah. And maybe we're going to get like total clarity once he gets the third eye and we go like, whoa, this is like the amazing evil character that we've all been wanting. This is going to be the character that we have this epic battle with. Totally possible. But at the moment, Ku and Du are just really nice, really lovable characters. I really like them, and I've seen people in the Japanese fandom talking about them very positively. Like, they really just like them. They think they're very adorable and endearing. The Tokusentai, the special forces, they're just a gag. They're just a total joke. And they're not going to be the big bad. Neva is the wild card here. We don't know what's going to happen with him. So, Ku and Du may go crazy, we'll see, or it really is going to be King Gomah going crazy as well. But here's something that I want you to keep in mind. Being that this is such a throwback to the original Dragon Ball, and yes, I know there's a lot of GT references and all that, but I think this is heavily inspired by a lot of what happened in the original Dragon Ball. Adventure was the name of the game back then, and this is what's going on here in Daima. We're going to get some action scenes and all that, but still, this is an adventure story. And a lot of what's being set up here, it goes back and explains a lot of what happened in all of Dragon Ball, including the original Dragon Ball. But anyway, my point here is that remember what happened at the end of the Pilaf saga. Yeah, we got some action and we got an exciting moment with the big great ape and all that, and cutting off the tail and etc., etc. But it really was just a big joke. It was all set up for this huge punchline that was Ulan coming in and saving the day and wishing for Gyaru no Panty o Kure, right? That famous line that is one of the most famous lines in all of Dragon Ball and anime. I did an entire video about it. So basically, that entire saga was set up for that joke. Like, oh my god, the dragon, and then this dragon that can grant any wish, and it's amazing and epic, and the characters are locked up in the castle, and we got this great ape, and higher and higher, the stakes are going higher and higher. And what happens? This stupid little pervert pig character wishes for a pair of girls' panties, right? So I would not be surprised if we get an ending kind of, well, at least reminiscent of that in Daima. And if that happens, I think I may really, really enjoy it, but I think that a lot of the English-speaking fandom will hate it. And I think I will enjoy that too. But also, I think that quite a bit of the Japanese audience might actually enjoy that because they understand the whole gyaru pan, reference, right? The whole gal panty reference. So I would not be surprised if that happens. And if that happens, that will be the ultimate final joke that Toriyama left for us. And it's a classic Toriyama kind of joke, subverting expectations and not giving you what you want or what you think you want, and just providing us with just an absolutely ridiculous and stupid joke. So will that happen? I have no idea, but I think it's definitely a possibility at this point in time. But let's get to the review. I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it. I liked a lot of the humor, but this was definitely a setup episode. Was the Special Forces absolutely necessary? No. We could have gotten a fresh take or some new character that was a little bit different from anything we've seen. But, until we see how it all plays out, I will refrain from passing final judgment because, as I said, I think the Special Forces will be used as a little bit of a plot device in the next episode to motivate Ku and Du to do their thing and to enter the fight. But we'll find out next week. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Do you think this was awful? Did those jokes go over your head? And did you find any other Easter eggs that I missed? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, like, and see you in the next one.